Dear audience, after stories about wisdom and words, about how people learn to understand and speak to enlighten, we now enter another chapter where knowledge meets humility and understanding turns into awakening. The ancients once said, open quote, "To know everything is to know nothing at all." A statement that seems paradoxical, yet it is the deepest truth of learning the way. For the more one learns, the more one realizes how small one is before the boundless universe. The more one knows, the more one sees how much remains unknown. He who believes he has understood all stands outside the door of wisdom. Close quote. And so the ancients also warned, open quote, "To know you are wrong and not correct, it is the greatest mistake." True knowledge does not lie in never erring, but in the courage to face mistakes and correct oneself. The wise are not those who never lose their way, but those who know when to stop, bow their heads, and walk again with the feet of understanding. Close quote. In this part, I invite you to listen to stories of awakening, where mistakes become teachers and humility becomes wisdom. For only when one knows they are not enough does the true journey of intellect begin. A California night, late 1976. Fine rain drizzled outside the window. In the cramped garage of a small house, a 21-year-old Steve Jobs sat cross-legged on the cold cement floor, staring intently at the circuit board in the middle of the room. The yellow light from a single bulb cast a glow over his face, boyish, yet burning with fierce intensity. Beside him, Steve Wozniak, the gentle engineer with kind eyes, was carefully connecting thin strands of wire. "If this computer runs," Wozniak said softly, "it'll be the beginning." Jobs smiled, his eyes lighting up. "Not just run, it'll change the world. Woz, can't you see it? Someday everyone will have a computer at home, like a part of themselves." Wozniak chuckled. "You always dream too big." Jobs looked off into the distance, his voice dropping. "If you don't dream, then what's the point of living?" Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the room, and the Apple I came to life. No one knew that at that moment, a genius was born, and a tragedy began. 1984. The hall was flooded with flashlights. On stage, Jobs stepped out to thunderous applause. The spotlight shone on his youthful yet coldly proud face. He introduced the Macintosh, the first personal computer with a graphical interface, a window to the future. The world was astonished. The press called him the man who opened a new era. Jobs smiled, looking down at the crowd as if everything lay within his grasp. Today, Apple doesn't just create a product. We create the future. But in the shadows of that triumph stood John Scully, the CEO fancy. Jobs had invited from Pepsi. He watched with admiration and unease. "You know, Steve," Scully said after the launch, "you have a rare gift. You make people believe in the impossible. But sometimes I fear you believe it too much yourself." Jobs smirked. "Belief is the only thing that changes the world, John." Scully fell silent. In his eyes glimmered a quiet fear, the fear of a man who thought himself a god. Months later, Apple began to crumble. The Macintosh, brilliant but too expensive, failed to sell. In a tense board meeting, Jobs entered, holding a report, face unreadable. "The problem isn't the product," he said coldly. "The problem is your lack of faith." A marketing director stood up. "We've spent too much on advertising. Customers don't understand." Jobs slammed the table, voice thundering. "It's not the customers who don't understand. It's you. You're unworthy of the future." Silence fell. Heads bowed. Scully spoke softly. "Steve, sometimes I think you're losing yourself." Jobs snapped. "I'm never wrong. I see what you can't." That sentence split the room in two and split his soul in half. From that day, Apple was no longer a company. It was an empire ruled by one man. And Jobs, its lonely king. Summer 1985. The Apple boardroom, once a temple of innovation, had become a silent courtroom. Jobs entered, dressed in black, eyes blazing. Reports scattered on the table, all red. Scully sat at the head, calm but grim. "Steve," he said quietly, "the board has decided. They want you to step down." Jobs laughed, his voice trembling. "You're joking. Apple is mine. I built it." "I know," Scully whispered, eyes closing, "but you're killing it." Jobs looked around. No one met his gaze. Faces that once adored him now turned away, his fists clenched. "You betrayed me?" Scully sighed, almost pleading. "Steve, don't let pride destroy you." Jobs' laugh was dry. "No, John, you destroyed me." The door slammed. His footsteps echoed down the hallway, like the fall of a dethroned king. That night, he walked alone under streetlights, hands in his pockets, wind in his hair. Rain drizzled softly. He looked up at the empty sky. "Where did I go wrong?" he murmured. "Did they not understand me, or did I not understand them?" Only his shadow answered, stretching and trembling under the lights. In that moment, he realized what he lost was not Apple, but himself. In the quiet years that followed, he founded Next. It failed. People mocked him. "He's finished." But fate wasn't cruel. It was patient, waiting for him to change. One day, he visited a small animation studio called Pixar. The walls were covered with messy sketches. Young artists sat on the floor, drawing. Jobs stood silently by the wall, watching. One artist said, "We want to make characters that feel real. Even if they're toys, people should see themselves in them." Jobs froze. The words struck a deep place within him, one he had buried under ambition. That night, he stayed alone, watching a test clip of Toy Story. The screen's glow reflected on his face, not the light of fame, but of understanding. He whispered, "Maybe I was too busy proving I was right and forgot why I started." 1997. Apple was near bankruptcy. In a closed meeting, someone said, "We need him back." Steve Jobs. When he walked through the doors of his old company, it was like stepping into memory. This time, he didn't shout, he listened. He walked to each desk, asking quietly, "If we could make only one product, what should it be?" A young engineer whispered, trembling, something that makes people smile when they touch it. Jobs smiled. "Then let's make that." A year later came the iMac. Then iPod, iPhone, iPad. Apple rose again, not from technology alone, but from empathy, understanding, and humility. 2011, a white hospital room. Gentle light fell across his thin face. Jobs sat by the window, glasses in hand, looking peaceful. Before him lay an open notebook. The shaky handwriting read, open quote, "My child, learn to listen." Close quote. The door opened softly. His daughter entered, eyes red. "Dad, do you regret anything?" Jobs smiled faintly. "I once thought I knew everything. Now I know. It's what I don't know that makes me human." "Don't be afraid to be wrong," he whispered, "but never forget to make it right." He looked toward the fading sun. The more you think you know, the less you truly do. To know you are wrong and not fix it, that is the greatest mistake. A white light poured through the window, enveloping him. His eyes closed, the smile still there. A year later, thousands gathered at his memorial. On the screen, his face appeared, not as a CEO, not as a legend, but as a man who learned to correct himself. Wozniak's voice trembled. Steve once thought he knew everything, but his greatest achievement was learning humility. The image faded into a glowing white Apple logo, light spreading across the hall. A young student whispered, "To know everything is to know nothing." His friend nodded through tears, "And to know you are wrong but not correct it, that's the greatest mistake." Light filled the room, then slowly dissolved, leaving behind not technology, but wisdom. Jobs changed the world with his creations. But his greatest legacy was not the iPhone or Apple. It was the journey of becoming human. For in the end, wisdom does not dwell in a mind that knows all, but in a heart that dares to learn again from its mistakes.